Hello, everyone. So another one of these. So again, I am not scripted at all. I don't even have an outline. I was thinking about when I talk to kind of have something like topics so that I'm a little more organized, but I think that would ruin it. I was talking to Madeline about that. That's why it's Tabor Talk. It's just like, hey, we're talking. I'm having a cup of coffee, some water, and we're just bullshitting. And I think this works. I like it. So maybe if people want to give me some feedback or whatever. So again, finishing up on the Joe Rogan podcast. Again, if you've been following me, you know I like Joe Rogan. I listen to every one of his shows. And Tom Papa was his guest. I'm a big fan of Tom Papa. But anyway, they were talking about the talk show circuit. The talk shows, when talk shows are bigger, even talk shows today. Tom Papa said, I wanted to get on Conan in the worst way. And I have struggling. Because that was kind of like the stamp of approval to get on Conan, back in the 90s and early 2000s, because he was the smart guy, right? Conan was the guy who went to Harvard and he was a writer. Wasn't he a writer for The Simpsons? I'm not sure, but Conan O'Brien was the big deal. And then Joe was talking about how it was so weird that Conan, the whole thing was scripted. Conan had all his questions written out for him, and even his sidekick. Even the jokes were already written in advance. And then they have pre-interview and all that. It's just dog shit. So I wanted to talk about my tastes in talk shows and my feeling about what talk shows and all that. So I just want to say I'm a huge talk show guy. I've been since I was a kid. I started watching Johnny Carson, right? So NBC was the deal for me, right? We're talking about variety. I'm going to get into the other talk shows like Oprah and Donahue in a minute or so. But let's just talk about variety shows. You had Johnny Carson and David Letterman. For me, those were the two best. And I'd watch it on NBC. At 11:30, Johnny comes on. And then after the news, right? You watch the news, the local news, then Johnny Carson for an hour. And then at 12:30, it's Late Night with David Letterman. That was me in high school and college. And I wasn't a huge Johnny fan, but I was more of a Letterman. I was fucking a fanatic David Letterman fan. And then this became a big thing, like all talk shows. Like on NBC, you had Johnny Carson, David Letterman from 12:30 to 1:30, and then 1:30, actually 1:35, Bob Costas. Bob Costas had this later with Bob Costas at 1:30 in the morning. I watched every one of his shows, and it was something different. Costas just was actually in a couch, not with this desk thing, That's not a weird thing. Joe talks about that too, like sitting on a desk and like it's so weird. But so Costas would be in a chair, and then he would have guests, and they would talk about. They would just be very candid and just talking about behind the scenes stuff and just really just this informal thing and discussing things that you wouldn't ordinarily hear on a regular talk show host. So, and then at the time, like in the 90s, everyone was getting a talk show host. Like I think it was Chevy Chase got a talk show that lasted for a couple of weeks. The guy from Wheel of Fortune, I think his lasted for a couple of months. He was charming on Wheel of Fortune. He was handsome and seemed interesting, but David Brenner had a talk show. And then he had all these other, Arsenio Hall. Now, Arsenio Hall made it. He was big. I wasn't really a huge fan of Arsenio, but, he had his thing. Woo, 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 And then all these talk shows all over the place. All right, so you had variety shows. Well, let me just finish up with variety shows before I go into daytime talk show. So now you have fast forward to today, and I don't follow it now. I'm not into the talk show. I listen to podcasts. They're way better. But you have Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel, right? Are these the guys here? And they're fine and all that, but it's just such bullshit, man. They can't. Like, how are we going to know someone in 5 or 10 minutes? And then there's just, people, celebrities just promoting their movies and this and that. Maybe you have a little stand-up thing or whatever. So there's that. I don't really watch it. Podcasts are my thing. Now going back to finish off this little video recording is daytime TV. So I watched that too. When I was in college, that was a big thing. 4 o'clock, my show was Donahue. I love freaking Donahue. And then competition, Oprah comes in from Chicago here. I forget the year when she came in. I think it was 87, 88, something like that. And there she is. She took over. She became the queen of daytime television. The sun's in my eyes, sorry. So you had Oprah and Donahue, and I was always pulling for Donahue, but Oprah kicked the fucking shit out of him in the ratings, you know. Sorry for the cursing there. But anyway, so, and then you had later on, I think it was the 90s, and I call him, this guy came before Donald Trump. Morton Downey Jr., remember that? On Channel 9 here in New York. You know, it became syndicated later, but the big mouth, and he was this over-the-top right-wing conservative who was doing the same shit that Trump does today, like yelling at people and calling people fat slobs, and yelling. Go on YouTube, people don't forget, with Morton Downey Jr., and I can't do his voice, but you're a big fat slob, and liberals, the libs. He was doing all that stuff that Sean Hannity and Trump and Rush Limbaugh way before then. And all you liberals, you low-life liberal lunatic, pusillanimous low-life liberal lunatic, the libs. Morton Downey Jr., he was big for about a year. Show canceled. And then he did that whole Nazi thing. It was funny. All right, so I just want to know, what do people think about these talk shows? Do you still watch these talk shows? Daytime TV. Oh, Maury Povich, remember that shit? Then it got crazy. They had fights. Oh, Geraldo Rivera. All right, so I could probably talk about this for an hour, but I'll leave it at that. And, you know, feel free to comment and contact me right there on YouTube. I'd love to hear from people. Okay, have a great day, everyone.